The narrator, Alan, struggles with early morning film shoots, expressing exhaustion and humorously calling for a retake of his Einstein dream narration. He then recounts a dream where history's greatest scientists gathered to find a cure for jet lag, setting a tone of intellectual curiosity around sleep. At a grand convention in Alexandria, Egypt, reporters eagerly awaited Einstein's final address on jet lag, where our narrator, Alan, surprisingly found himself in the audience through his grandfather's connections. Einstein finally takes the stage, only to declare bluntly that there is no cure for jet lag, leaving the audience and Alan to ponder his unexpected presence. Alan, shocked Einstein knows his name, questions him about feeling jet-lagged in his own time zone, to which Einstein dismissively tells him to go home and work on his film. This leads Alan to a childhood memory of struggling to fall asleep, with his mother reassuring him he'd be asleep before he knew it, a promise that rarely held true for him. Even after his father's goodnight, Alan lies awake, unable to switch off his mind, symbolized by the incessant clicking of a light switch. Alan's internal monologue reveals his torment, cycling between frantic attempts to force sleep and desperate pleas to think pleasant thoughts. The impending arrival of his baby intensifies his sleeplessness, as his mind races with anxieties about fatherhood and balancing his filmmaker's life. His thoughts spiral into imagining his child's future, even humorously wishing his future doctor child could provide him with sleeping pills. The stress of future planning continues, with concerns about competitive New York City nursery schools already weighing on his mind. Morning arrives with a cacophony of alarms and proverbs about early birds, which Alan dismisses as a bunch of crap, highlighting his struggle with mornings. Alan candidly admits to being a terrible sleeper, his voice betraying his chronic fatigue. He describes a constant battle with sleep, either struggling to initiate it or waking prematurely, leaving him perpetually tired. Alan likens his chronic tiredness to a permanent cold, a pervasive discomfort without the typical symptoms. Paradoxically, Alan reveals he comes alive at night, feeling most productive and creative after others have gone to bed. He confesses that every film he's ever made was created during the night, highlighting his unique nocturnal rhythm. Alan feels trapped between his lack of sleep and his relentless drive to work, unable to reconcile the two. He then probes the audience about their sleep habits, asking how many hours they slept, from 8 down to none. During a doctor's visit, Alan provides details about his age, marriage, and the upcoming birth of his first child, marking a significant life transition. He answers questions about his lifestyle, including his non-smoking habits, moderate drinking, jump rope exercise, and his preference for the night. Alan details his bedtime routine with his wife, emphasizing that their bedroom is reserved only for sleep and intimacy, not work or food. He acknowledges having a TV in the bedroom but rarely using it, and notes a long absence of nightmares. Alan confirms that everybody tells me all the time that he looks tired, a pervasive comment on his appearance. He admits to involuntarily falling asleep only in movie theaters, indicating his deep-seated issues are specific to his own bed. He readily identifies himself as a worrier, suggesting a link between his mental state and his sleep problems. Alan expresses hesitation about becoming a morning person, unsure if he'd even want to change his ingrained nocturnal nature. He openly wonders if his sleep pattern is permanently wired into him, a hopeless case that cannot be changed. In the sleep lab, Alan details the extensive monitoring equipment, noting that only his racing thoughts remain unrecorded. Alan describes bedtime as an unpredictable adventure, fraught with uncertainty about when, or if, he will finally fall asleep. He explains that his mind races uncontrollably, a relentless mental activity preventing his brain from shutting down. Often, as soon as his head touches the pillow, music starts playing in his mind, looping endlessly and refusing to leave. He even avoids certain music during the day, fearing it will return to torment him during his sleepless nights. He cites a specific example, Leonard Cohen's In My Secret Life, which transforms into In My Sleepless Night in his mind, reflecting his inner turmoil. A doctor identifies this as rumination, a mental habit of endlessly chewing on something and being unable to let it go. Alan asks for an off switch for his racing thoughts, but the doctor explains that his routine is deeply ingrained and requires learning new habits, not a simple solution. Over the years, Alan has tried countless remedies, from aromatherapy and massage to counting sheep, all with no success. His exhaustive list of failed attempts includes everything from melatonin and acupuncture to marijuana and lots of sex, emphasizing the sheer desperation of his quest for sleep. Alan wonders if his insomnia traces back to infancy, but his mother insists he was a good sleeper, while his sister suggests it's related to his nocturnal filmmaking. His mother fondly recalls singing him a French lullaby and rubbing his back, a simple act that once lulled him to sleep. Alan's overanalytical nature is revealed as he critiques his mother's method of counting sheep, demonstrating his obsessive focus even on sleep-inducing techniques. Some nights, Alan is plagued by a rhythmic pounding in his head, feeling as if a woodpecker is under his pillow. The doctor explains it's his own pulse, but Alan's preoccupation makes him question why others don't hear it, highlighting his heightened awareness of his body. When asked what he should think about, the doctor describes a serene state of comfort and emptiness, which Alan dismisses as science fiction. The doctor explains that for poor sleepers, the bedroom itself transforms into a battlefield, a sentiment Alan deeply resonates with. Good sleepers see sleep as an escape, a natural and easy process, yet Alan laments, "And I can't do it." He attempts a guided meditation, visualizing himself walking downstairs to a tranquil garden, a journey towards elusive rest. Alan admits his late bedtime, often between 2 and 5 a.m., directly following intensive work sessions. He rattles off an extensive list of research topics for his film, showcasing his relentlessly active mind, even at night. Alan expresses profound despair, lamenting that he has forgotten how to fall asleep, comparing it to forgetting basic human functions. His wife, Shari, wakes up abruptly and angrily, furious that Alan is filming her with a bright light, highlighting the disruptive nature of his work. He admits the only consistent solution is a sleeping pill, his sword for the dragon of sleeplessness. The doctor points out Alan's combative perception of sleep as a dragon, to which Alan candidly replies, "The dragon is me." Alan reveals his dirty little secret. He's been taking sleeping pills for years, far exceeding the recommended short-term use. He questions what the sleeping pills are doing to his body, only to learn that doctors don't fully understand their exact mechanisms. Shari, unable to sleep due to Alan's loud snoring, tries to move him, further highlighting the impact of his sleep issues on their relationship. Hearing recordings of his own snoring deeply disturbs Alan, making him terrified of falling asleep in public and becoming a nuisance. The golden rule of sleep hygiene, a doctor advises, is to wake up at the same time every day, regardless of how little sleep he got. Flashback to 1989, a younger Alan describes his chronic fatigue, irritability, and lack of concentration, showing a lifelong struggle. A powerful metaphor compares sleep deprivation to slowly boiling a frog, where the victim doesn't realize the extent of their suffering until it's too late. He recounts instances of extreme forgetfulness, including forgetting the video of his film for its own screening. Alan concludes that human error is often just a euphemism for fatigue or sleepiness, where exhausted individuals make mistakes. Alan extrapolates, suggesting that even major sporting events like the World Series could hinge on a key player's quality of sleep. He introduces the looping music from the 1941 film, That Uncertain Feeling, a scene depicting a sleepless woman, ironically with an Oscar-nominated score. In a dream, he wanders the city, desperately seeking someone who can explain why everyone else knows how to sleep except him. Guided by his father's advice to wear a scuba helmet, Alan dreams of finding his great-grandfather, only to be told, "You got the wrong guy. I sleep with the moon and wake with the sun." Alan mentions that insomnia runs in both sides of his family, suggesting a genetic predisposition. The one exception was his grandpa Joe, captured in a rare moment of genuine fatigue. His family debates whether Grandpa Joe's nocturnal habits caused his sleeplessness or were a result of it. Alan recounts his father's chronic sleeplessness, quoting him saying, "I didn't sleep last night. Shoot me in the head." This leads Alan to realize his son's sleep patterns might also be genetically linked to his own and his grandfather's. Alan reveals to his father that he secretly listened to his parents fighting every night, knowing about their impending divorce long before it happened, making him sleepless. Night became a time of hypervigilance, where he would listen to and then obsess over his parents' conflicts, preventing him from resting. Multiple doctors suggest that Alan's childhood association of night with his parents' arguments and pain might be a deep-seated cause of his insomnia. Alan confronts his mother about her denial of their early marital conflicts, stating he was her best audience for their performance of a happy marriage. He suggests that this intense, sleepless observation of his parents' relationship might be the fundamental cause of his lifelong struggle with sleep. The baby, Eli, is born, and Alan is overwhelmed with joy, exclaiming, "Oh my gosh," as he witnesses the first moments of his son's life. After a long night, Eli's birth proves to be the best sleepless night I ever had, a profound shift in Alan's perception of wakefulness. Alan marvels at Eli's first yawn, less than 5 minutes after birth, noting this early sign of drowsiness. A startling fact reveals that 24 hours of sleep deprivation results in reaction times equivalent to being legally drunk. Alan wonders if a sleepalizer could ever exist, similar to a breathalyzer, and is told that scientists are working on such a device. Alan reveals his lifelong avoidance of coffee and caffeine, explaining it makes him hyper and unable to sleep. Under pressure, Alan decides to break his lifelong rule, skipping his morning shower to try coffee for the first time in over 30 years. Alan questions why sleep can't be like a gas station, staying awake as long as desired, then simply refilling when exhausted. A doctor finally diagnoses Alan with delayed sleep phase syndrome, confirming he is a true night owl with a misaligned internal clock. Alan describes the night as a total haven, a time of darkness, silence, and peace where he feels sharper and more alive. The doctor observes that Alan seems to enjoy being awake more than sleeping, to which Alan admits, "Sometimes I think I'm addicted to being awake." He calculates that his sleeplessness grants him an astonishing 5 extra years of alert, waking, productive, creative time over a 40-year period. He chillingly declares, "There will be plenty of time to sleep after I die," repeating the phrase as if to solidify his commitment to wakefulness. Alan passionately declares his desire for wakefulness, life, joy, and productivity, viewing sleep as boring, monotonous, and a waste of time. The doctor counters that Charlie Parker would have been 10 times the musician if he had slept better, arguing sleep enhances greatness. Alan argues that Parker's sleeplessness was integral to his identity, citing Edison's minimal sleep and ability to nap instantly as further examples. Alan rejects a friend's suggestion for a news fast and a break from the city, unwilling to disconnect from the constant flow of information. He suspects he has an urban disease, a constant need to feel connected and plugged in to the world. Shari gently tries to wake a groggy Alan at 6:20 a.m. to tend to Eli, reminding him of his promise despite his late night. Alan resists, pleading that he's only had 3 hours of sleep and cannot be woken. The irony is that Eli now sleeps through the night, but Alan's continued late bedtimes mean he still only gets 2-3 hours of sleep before Eli wakes. Alan feels guilty, acknowledging he lives in a different time zone from his family, and Shari insists this must change. Doctors advise resetting his biological clock by getting an hour of morning light exposure to help him fall asleep earlier. This sleep restriction therapy will make him a zombie, but the accumulated sleep debt will eventually force him to sleep more efficiently. His family also attributes his worsened obsession to the film itself, claiming it ruined him and took his fixation to greater heights. In a dream, Alan sees Eli playing with the president, feeling a pang of jealousy that he's not the one playing with his son. The dream reveals the deeper meaning. Eli is his son of day, and Alan deeply misses the precious daylight hours with him. Shari expresses her desire for Alan to come to bed earlier with her, so they can share that time together. Alan had always accepted his groggy mornings as the price for his glorious nights, a lifelong commitment to his identity as what I am. With the film concluded, Alan knows what changes he needs to make, but questions if he truly can do it. Alan expresses gratitude to all his special guests, especially his wife Shari, for her incredible patience and understanding. He dedicates the film to all you insomniacs out there, ending on a note of solidarity. Finally, he thanks his son, Eli, stating, "Our collaborations have only just begun," indicating a new chapter in his life.